Hello, this is Kay from essentialkorean.com. 안녕하세요. Essential Korean K-쌤입니다. In this episode, we will learn how the contraction of the particle 은는 works in colloquial speech. This is the last episode to focus on the 은는 particle in a 3-part series, so stay with me. I only spend this much time on the particle because of its importance in the Korean language. Are you ready? Let's get started. Let's begin with the party situation from the previous episode. Imagine ourselves at the party. We are getting hungry there. Let's get some kimbap to eat, one of the most beloved foods for Koreans. One can prepare a sheet of dried seaweed, or kim in Korean, on which one spreads a layer of cooked rice and places a variety of meat and vegetables. Make it into a wrap and cuts it bite-sized. So that's what I'm getting from the buffet table at the party, kimbap. Thomas is getting shrimp cocktails. How would you say in Korean, K-쌤 eats kimbap and Thomas eats shrimp cocktail? With the goal of emphasizing teacher K and Thomas. K-쌤은 김밥 먹어요. 그리고 토마스는 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. As for teacher K, she eats kimbap, and as for Thomas, he eats shrimp cocktails. This sentence can also be translated more simply as teacher K eats kimbap and Thomas eats shrimp cocktails. But remember that the 은는 particle is emphasizing Thomas and teacher K, which is the reasoning for including as for in the original English translation. K-쌤은 김밥 먹어요. 그리고 토마스는 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. What about you? Think of your favorite appetizer. Say what you're eating and what teacher K is eating in Korean, while emphasizing yourself and teacher K. Did you say the sentence? If you did, you must have started your sentence with 나는 to mean as for I in the neutral form, or 저는, which also means as for I, but in the humble form. In colloquial speech, 나는 is often contracted to 난, a single syllable phrase, 난. 난, 난. And likewise, 저는 to also a single syllable sound, 전, 전, 전. Likewise, 우리, we in the neutral level followed by the particle 는, 우리는 is contracted to, can you guess? Yes, it becomes 2-syllable phrase. 우린, 우린, 우린. How do you think 저희, the humble counterpart of 우리, followed by 는 would be contracted to? It would be shortened to 2 syllables, 저흰. 저흰, 저흰. Here is what's going on with the contraction of the 은는 particle. In colloquial speech, when the particle 는 follows a vowel-ending noun, it's often shortened to the Korean consonant 니은, whose sound value is the same as the English N sound. That consonant, in turn, is added directly to the end of the vowel-ending word it follows. Note that when the particle 은 follows a consonant-ending noun, for example, K-쌤은, or Y는, or 서울은, or 뉴욕은, the contraction does not take place. It's only when 는 follows a vowel-ending noun is there room for a consonant to be added, and we see this contraction. Thus, vowel-ending nouns plus 는, like 나는, can become 난, 저는 becomes 전. 우리는 becomes 우린. 저희는 becomes 저흰. Do you remember the Korean singer Psy's phenomenal international hit Gangnam Style back in 2012? You know, the song begins with 오빤 Gangnam Style. The phrase 오빤 is actually the contraction of 오빠 and the particle 는 following it. The primary meaning of 오빠 is older brother of a female, but is also used as an endearing and intimate term to refer to or address a man for a female. So when Psy says 오빤 Gangnam Style in a flashy outfit with black sunglasses in the music video, one cannot help but only to interpret that as he refers to himself oppa. He's boasting to women that he's a man of posh and chic style of Gangnam, the south side of the Han River in Seoul. One additional note on the opening and recurring line, the contraction of 오빤 is used over 오빠는 for likely two reasons. One, Psy speaking colloquially, and two, 오빤 Gangnam Style rolls off the tongue easier than 오빠는 Gangnam Style. Let's listen to a few sections of the song Gangnam Style, starting with 오빤 at the beginning.
오빤 Gangnam Style Gangnam Style 낮에는 따사로운 인간적인 여자 사랑스러워 그래 no 그래 바로 no 지금부터 갈 때까지 가볼까 오빤 Gangnam Style Gangnam Style 오빤 Gangnam Style Gangnam Style 오빤 Gangnam Style Hey sexy lady
Oh my, that music video still makes me laugh. With those quirky moves and hilarious scenes that are raw renditions of things that I consider quintessentially Korean. Now that you have some background knowledge about the opening of the song, Gangnam Style, you should watch it again for a good laugh. Okay, getting back to the lesson. Let's do more speaking practice. Let's start with the phrase as for teacher K and Thomas. K-쌤하고 토마스는. Remember one of the key points of the previous episode that we only add a particle after the last noun in a string of nouns connected with 하고. Also, in case you are wondering, 토마스 ends with a vowel 으 when written in Korean. So we add 는, not 은, after 토마스. Thus, as for teacher K and Thomas in Korean is K-쌤하고 토마스는. We can take this one step further with the use of contractions. Since 토마스 ends with a vowel and is followed by the particle 는, we can contract this to the three-syllable sound. 토마슨, 토마슨, and sound casual and very native-like. Repeat after me to say as per teacher K and Thomas in Korean, where the particle 는 is contracted. K-쌤하고 토마스는. K-쌤하고 토마스는. And now repeat after me to say teacher K and Thomas eat kimbap and shrimp cocktails. K-쌤하고 토마스는 김밥하고 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. One more time. K-쌤하고 토마스는 김밥하고 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. One more time. 케이쌤하고 토마스는 김밥하고 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. Now, let's use the sentence connector 그리고 and say Teacher K eats kimbap and Thomas eats shrimp cocktails in Korean. K쌤은 김밥 먹어요. 그리고 토마스는 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. You can also use another conjunctive word we learned, 그런데, which has a meaning between and but. In colloquial and casual speech, you'll frequently hear its short form, 근데. Why don't we use the short form and say Teacher K is eating kimbap and but Thomas eats shrimp cocktails in Korean. K쌤은 김밥 먹어요. 근데 토마스는 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. K쌤은 김밥 먹어요. 근데 토마스는 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. One more time. K쌤은 김밥 먹어요. 근데 토마스는 슈림프 칵테일 먹어요. Okay, imagine we are still at the party and the conversation takes us to the topic of means of transportation we prefer to use in Seoul. Let's ask Thomas, who is relatively new to Korea, if he rides the bus, subway, and taxi. To ask this question, we need to know the verb 타요, the informal polite style of the verb to ride. Let's now ask, 토마스 씨는 버스하고 지하철하고 택시 타요? Which means, Thomas, do you ride the bus, subway, and taxi? Let's examine the sentence closely now. Firstly, did you notice the she after Thomas or Thomas? With those whom you speak in the polite style, you should add something after the name or title to mark respect, such as she, like 토마스 씨, or 님, like 선생님, which means teacher. So we have 토마스 씨 addressing Thomas politely, followed by the particle 는. Here we can contract 토마스 씨는 to 토마스 신. After that, in the sentence, we have the phrase for bus, subway, and taxi. 버스하고 지하철하고 택시. And the verb for ride with a rising intonation for it's a question. 타요? If you knew that Thomas rides a subway and taxi, but he does not ride a bus, can you explain that in Korean? Sure. We're going to talk about the means of transportation Thomas uses and the means of transportation he does not use. This is a perfect place to employ the 은는 particle as a contrastive particle. Add 는 after 지하철하고 택시, the string of the means of transportation Thomas uses. And add 는 after 버스, the means of transportation he does not use, to contrast the two. So we have 지하철하고 택시는 and 버스는. Let's get ready to say, as for Thomas, he rides subway and taxi, but he does not ride the bus in Korean. Repeat after each phrase. As for Thomas, 토마스는 subway and taxi, 지하철하고 택시는 ride, 타요. But, 그런데 버스는 does not ride, 안 타요. Please note that we don't mention Thomas in the second sentence, which starts with 그런데, because it's already established in the first sentence and we don't want to sound redundant. Let's say the two sentences without any translation interrupting the flow of the sentence, which means Thomas rides the subway and taxi on one hand, but he does not ride bus on the other hand. 토마스는 지하철하고 택시는 타요. 그런데 버스는 안 타요. Should we do something fun here and get right on the key lesson point for today? I see 4 phrases in the sentence just introduced that can be contracted to sound more colloquial and casual. If you applied what you learned earlier in the episode, we can do it. 토마스는 can be contracted to 토마스는. 지하철하고 택시는 to 지하철하고 택신. 버스는 to 버슨. And also 그런데 to 근데, which is the colloquial version of the conjunctive word. In colloquial speech, many contractions like these take place. I can give you an English example like this. People contract the phrase going to gonna in colloquial speech. For example, the sentence I am going to listen to Essential Korean podcast can be contracted to I'm gonna listen to Essential Korean podcast. Please note that contractions are not mandatory and it's up to the speaker as for which ones to contract. All or none, or anything in between. Alright, now listen carefully and see how sentences 토마스는 지하철하고 택시는 타요. 그런데 버스는 안 타요 transforms from the 23-syllable sentence to 19-syllable sentence where 토마스는 has been contracted to 토마슨. 택시는 has been contracted to 택신. 그런데 to 근데 and 버스는 to 버슨. Do you want to try? Why not? Repeat after me. You will really sound like a native speaker. Here you go. 토마스는 as for Thomas, 지하철하고 택신, the subway and the taxi at least, 타요, ride. 근데, but, 버스는, the bus on the other hand, 안 타요, not ride. One more time, without the translation. 토마스는 지하철하고 택신 타요. 근데 버스는 안 타요. 토마스는 지하철하고 택신 타요. 근데 버스는 안 타요. Very good. We are done with the practice. The transcripts for our podcasts are now available on our website, essentialkorean.com. They'll help you follow the lesson points better, so I hope you make good use out of them. On the transcript of this episode, I placed brackets around the contracted phrases to represent how they are pronounced in colloquial speech, and also to mark that the non-contracted forms should be used in writing. I did not, however, place brackets around the contracted forms consisting of a pronoun, namely 나, 저, 우리, or 저희, and the 는 particle because we do see those forms in casual writing. I want to also note that I've introduced the contractions of the 있는 particle today because it is indeed prevalent in colloquial speech, and not discussing the topic would only cause greater confusion. However, do not concern yourself too much with the contraction for speaking as a beginning student. Rather, your focus should be on when and where to appropriately place the 있는 particle so you can become more familiar with the sentence structure of the Korean language and in turn continue to build a sound foundation for advancing to the intermediate level. One more thing. If you have any questions about the Korean language, email them to me at k@essentialkorean.com. I used to tell my students, if you have a question on anything, chances are more than half the class probably has the same question. So be the first one to ask and help your fellow learners. I'll feature your questions on our podcast and try to help you out. So again, send questions with your name and where you are tuning in from, and let's connect. Okay, that's it for today's episode. I'll be back soon, I promise, with a lesson on counting in Korean. So please be on the lookout for it. Take care and stay healthy. 안녕히 계세요.